You've got ideas, you've got ambition, you've got no time, or so you think. I'm Marissa Lonick, and I help busy moms with big dreams and no time. Join me each week as I dive into time management strategies, goal setting and achieving framework, and inspiring guests who are juggling mom life, work life, fill in the blank life. Dreams don't work unless you do, and just because you're a mom doesn't mean you can't still make it happen, whatever it means to you. Welcome to the Mama Work It podcast. Hello, mamas. Welcome back to another totally awesome episode of the Mama Work It podcast. If you are ready to laugh and learn and let it go, more on that later, you are listening to the right episode today. I've got Joanne Jarrett on the show today, and we are going to be chatting all about all things embarrassing, all things relatable, all things non-constricting. Joanne is a family physician on her 19th year of maternity leave, who designs and sells cozy built-in shelf bra loungewear at Shelfie Shoppe. She is also a podcaster at Fancy Free Podcast and a reluctant dental assistant in her husband's part-time root canal practice. And she's a mom of two girls, ages 19 and 17. I'm excited to chat. I know you're excited to chat. Joanne, thank you so much for being here.
Hello, Marissa. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. Well, okay, first things first, please tell us more about you. I want to hear about the 19-year maternity leave. Like, is this a paid leave? How can others take advantage of this wonderful benefit we may not know about? Please tell us more.
Oh my gosh. Every time I tell someone I'm on my 19th year of maternity leave and my husband's in the room, he's like, oh, she loves that joke. She thinks that's so funny. And I'm like, I think it is funny.
It is funny.
But,
it is.
No. What happened to me was that I went to medical school and I became a family physician. And then I worked doing that until Scott and I had kids. And we were married 6 years before we had kids. And the plan was always to go down to part-time while I was raising the kids and have my mom be our nanny. And a few things just happened where mom got a different job she was really loving. And I had some postpartum depression. My kids were so close in age. And I just thought, you know what? I actually want to stay home with my kids myself. And I could have done like shift work and urgent care, but that really wasn't what I loved. I loved the, consistent relationship with my patients, which I knew I wasn't going to be able to have working part-time or very part-time. So I just decided, you know what? I think I'm a stay-at-home mom now. So no, it's not a paid leave. Scott does the earning and I do the spending, but now we actually both do the earning. So that's a totally different story. That's been 3 years that we've been doing the root canal practice together.
Amazing. Yeah. I love how you say that like it was no big deal. You just like became a family physician. Like, hi, that's a lot of school and work to accomplish.
Well, it is. But here's the thing, mamas. First of all, I went to college. I knew I wanted to get a degree and I just changed my major so many times. And finally I realized, I don't think I'm going to end up with an undergraduate degree that leads me to a career that's going to be fulfilling for me. So I decided to do medicine and I went to my college advisor and said, like, here are all the classes I've taken. I'm sorry, I've changed my major 7 times. Now I want to go to medical school. How can I do it? And he was like, you can get a Bachelor of Arts in zoology. And I was like, I can't even believe that exists, but yes, sign me up. So I did that. And then, I loved medicine. I loved taking care of my patients, but it's just something I did. It's interesting because a lot of people I think have their identity very intertwined in what they do. And I never did that. I'm just very relational. I definitely have my identity more in my faith and my relationships. So it was hard to give it up. Don't get me wrong. But, my mother-in-law says, you still practice, Joanne. You just have a really small concierge practice and nobody pays you. Because I do take care of my family.
Yeah.
As.
And I like that you said that. I actually really love that you said that because your identity shouldn't be tied to what you do. And I feel like society views it so that way, right? The first question you ask someone when you meet them is like, what do you do? And it's like, they're already like sizing you up based on what you spit out in that conversation. And why not just like, hey, let's just get to know each other as human beings and people and let's go from there. And then, Like
Yes.
if I learn about what you do down the line, that's cool. Maybe we have something in common, maybe not,
People are actually usually really surprised when they find out about my professional history, because it just doesn't come up that much. I it's not like I'm keeping it a secret. It's just it doesn't have a lot to do with who I am today, really. I mean, it does historically, but not on a day-to-day basis. But the other thing I wanted to say is, and this is really important for everybody to sort of internalize, is that okay, so I am a trained physician. Every trained physician does rotations in all of the basic specialties. So I had, a month of surgery at the VA. I had trauma surgery. I had all these things. And when I was doing my surgical rotation at the VA, I worked 36 on, 12 off, 36 on, 12 off for an entire month. And the 36 hours on is basically awake and working. Sometimes you get to sleep, but, it's very inconsistent. I want to tell you guys that being a mom was hands down more difficult, more frustrating, more exhausting than that month of my life. And so you should know that what you are doing is harder than what anybody that you meet is doing professionally. I promise.
Oh my gosh, I just got chills when you said that, because when you were describing it, I'm like, wow, that sounds like hell. And then when you said that motherhood feels harder sometimes, I'm like, well, damn, I've done that a few times, and
Uh-huh.
that's amazing. So thank you for
Yeah.
saying that.
I'm lucky enough to lucky enough to have something to compare it to that's in, most people's eyes really, really difficult. And it's like, oh yeah, I would do that. I mean, and I wouldn't trade my kids. I wouldn't say I would do trauma before I'd have babies again, but because I love my babies and it's so much more important to me, but it was a harder time in my life. And then there's one more soundbite that I like to give people, because I think that we don't do that. We don't say this often enough. I don't live my present life to justify my past. And that's the other thing that I tell people when they're like, I can't believe you gave up your career in medicine. Well, for one thing, it's still inside of me. I still have lots of medical knowledge. My daughter's always calling me from college. Okay, mom, I gotta take a care package to somebody. Tell me what the dosage is on this and that. And, but yeah, I don't, and a lot of people don't have the financial luxury to do that. And I understand that. And if I told my husband, if I have to go back to work, I will, I can, I just would need to retrain a little bit, but don't live your current life to justify your past. It's so not worth it.
Oh, that's deep. That's deep, Joanne. This is supposed to be a funny show. No, I'm just kidding. We get deep on here. Don't worry. Okay. I like that you said that. Thank you. All right. So medical background, motherhood, dental assistant. Now you started a clothing line. Like, I assume you didn't spend a few years getting a fashion degree during that 19-year maternity leave. Maybe you did. I don't know. Nothing would shock me
I
here.
didn't.
But you're pretty amazing. So, like, tell us more about
Oh.
this. Tell us more about Shelfie Shoppe clothes. Like, what is it? Why did you decide to do this?
Yep. Thank you. Shelfie Shoppe is basically a loungewear brand that sells super cozy clothes with the perfect built-in shelf bra. And the reason I started that is because I love a good shelf bra when I'm done wearing the structured bra at the end of the day, or if I'm home all day, I don't even want to put on the structured bra. But I just need a little bit of containment and a little bit of support and a little bit of nipple coverage so I don't terrorize someone should they ring my front doorbell, or I can go out to my front yard and get my mail. And, I like to have it started when I was pregnant and I had a lot of breast tenderness. I just started sleeping with a little bit of support and coverage. And I like the way it feels. Not everybody's the same, but I don't love that skin on skin feel where the boobs are sagging. So, and I learned how to sew from my mom, and I basically just sew like pillows and curtains for my house because I'm too cheap to pay what nice curtains cost and stuff like that. But, I decided that I would just chop apart one of my shelf bra camis, which are easy to find, and make a shelf bra nightie or nightgown, which I couldn't find online. Now I'm not the only brand. Other people had the same idea, I think, around the same time I did. But I love our shelf bra in particular because it has a couple of attributes that others don't, like separate cups and just enough thickness for nipple coverage, but the cups aren't removable, and super cozy plush elastic and things like that. But anyway, so when I made that prototype, I started thinking, if I want this, maybe other people do too. Let me just see if I can figure this out. And I was listening to a podcast called Side Hustle School at the time. And there was a story about a lady who was like some completely unrelated career to fashion. And she was missing a bra that she used to always buy in India and couldn't find it in the States and was living in the States now. So she decided to just figure out how to make that happen. And she took an apparel production course. And then she went through all the steps needed and was manufacturing and selling this bra. And she had funded her son's college fund with it. And I was like, well, if she can do it, I guess I can do it too. So I just put one foot in front of the other and did it. And it's been really exciting.
I love that. I love that story. And I will just say, as an owner of a Shelfie Shoppe tee, the material of this shirt, you guys, like softer than a baby's bottom. I don't know how else to describe it. Like it is so nice, like so nice against your skin. I mean, I don't know, where did you even source material like this? Like, how do
Oh,
you even make it?
yeah. Sourcing is such a huge part of it. And my husband's like, I will never look at a piece of clothing the same again because so much goes into it. For one thing, even just getting the patterns made and then trying on the samples and doing revisions, which we're doing right now with our plus size line, is so expensive. It's like $2,000 to get one style figured out, but or even more. But this fabric is made in New Jersey. It's more expensive than fabric people are using for apparel production for the most part. And that's one of the reasons why Shelfies are a little higher price point, but the fabric is made in the United States. The garments are small batch handmade in a sew shop in the United States. And then I pack everyone by hand. I do quality assurance on every piece before I send it out. And I mean, as we get a little bit higher volume, maybe some of those things will change, but I don't think so. I don't think I'll let it grow much past that because I'm fortunate enough that we don't have to live on what I'm bringing in from Shelfie Shoppe. So right now I'm just kind of trying to find my way with it, but I love it. And I love the customer care. I love emailing customers. I love reading reviews, even if they're 2-star reviews, then I communicate, okay, how could I make this better? So just the whole thing is so much fun for me. I love clothes. I love sewing. I love people. So it's just a fit.
Yeah. My gosh, I love that they're from New Jersey. Feel like I like them even better now.
Yeah, girl.
They're Jersey girl clothes.
Oh my gosh. And I had a customer send me a picture of a few stains that she got on the sleeves of one of her Shelfie tops. It was a long sleeve top. And I forwarded those to the fabric manufacturer. And she has been, I mean, it's not just one gal, but my contact at that company has been so responsive. They did all these like experiments on that fabric, making sure that it wasn't defective. And then she realized it had to have been a stain because the defect crossed a seam line, which she didn't notice in the original photograph. But I was like, this is amazing customer service. So it's just one of those you get what you pay for kind of things.
Yeah, totally. Okay. Love that. Here's the thing. I want to shift gears a little bit and I want to talk about your motherhood wisdom. Are you ready?
Oh my. Yes.
So a lot of our listeners have young kids. My kids are 9 and under. A lot of our listeners are like newer moms and you've got older girls and I'm sure you've got some sage wisdom and advice. Tell us, what would you do differently if you could go back?
Yeah. One of the things I regret, and I think it came from a time when I was struggling with some depression before I became medicated, which I finally broke down and did. I stopped tucking my kids in at like 9 years old. And now my kids are 17 and 19, and what I would give to tuck them in today. I mean, my 17-year-old, I could still tuck her in, I guess, if I wanted to. But, face-to-face motherhood time costs you so dearly at that age. It's just so intense. And by the end of the day, I was like, I'm done. I don't have any more. And one of the reasons I stopped doing that, I'm making myself sound like a terrible mother, but one of the reasons I stopped doing that was we were having a power struggle with timing and getting the teeth brushed and getting in the bed with my oldest. So I was like, just go up and get it done and get yourself in bed. And I just wish I could go back and force myself, even though it was really hard at the time, to just have one more little intense interaction with my girls at the end of the day. But luckily for me, I have a lot more that I would do again if I could. And I have a really good relationship with my kids. One of the really, this is sort of a superficial thing, but since it's holiday times, I'm going to tell you because the hairdresser told me when my kids were babies, decide when they're really young how many presents they're going to get for birthday and Christmas and stay consistent with that through their childhoods. That was such good advice at the time. I was like, yeah, okay. But I'm so glad we did that now because we've just had a tradition. It's like, okay, they get 3 for birthday, 5 for Christmas. Of course, the value changes a little bit as they age, but I like guidelines. So to me, that was a guideline that I maybe wouldn't have come up with on my own. What else would I do different?
Well, let me comment on a couple things really quick.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
that hit close to home for me with the bedtime, because
Mhm.
I think, like you said, we're exhausted at that time of day. And it does feel like the much easier button to just be like, okay, good night, bye. Like, and you know what I'm
Yeah.
noticing in my house lately, because I've got 9, 9, 5, and 3. The 5-year-old's in a stage where he always wants me to lay down with him to go to sleep. And like most nights I do it, right? Because it's like sweet and cute.
Yeah.
And now the 9-year-olds are asking. And I am doing it like on a rotation because otherwise the bedtime is like 90 minutes long. And
That's
I
right.
end
You
up
just you
waking
got to
up
be
in the middle of
realistic.
the night like on a top bunk bed. But but I'm like, the other day I caught myself like exhausted being like, no, I'm not doing it. And then I'm like, oh my God, how much longer are they going to want me to lay in bed with them? Get your ass in that bed. Like,
Yes.
and
Yes.
I'm like, love that you said that.
Yeah, maybe try to figure out some way that you can make it easier on yourself. Like, make sure you empty your bladder. Like, I am so impatient when I have to go potty, and I hate the feeling of anything in my bladder. So there are just some practical things that you can do to make it easier, and maybe pair it with something that you're going to do near their bedrooms anyway. Like, go lie down with them and then get your pajamas on or something, so that it feels like you were going to go down the hall anyway or whatever, or up the stairs. And I don't know, but yeah, I think please just push through that, because and once your kids start driving, I mean, right now, when you're in the car with your kids, you're getting a lot of conversation with them and a lot of time, a lot of hands-on time, and you're helping them bathe and you're helping them eat and that kind of thing. But once those kids are doing all that on their own, and especially when you're not driving them around anymore, you really start to miss those kids. And that's okay. They need that independence. That's a natural part of their upbringing. And I don't want to say enjoy it now because you're going to miss it later, because I hated hearing that, because I was like, this is really hard. Like, by the end of the day, I feel like my face should be black and blue sometimes, just because of how I feel internally. But just, you're going to be glad that you forced yourself to do those certain high value things that you're exhausted to do.
Yes. Yes. And it's okay some days when you really can't do it, and give yourself that grace. But I can
Yes.
appreciate this advice from a mama who's got teenage girls, been there, done that, and can give it to us.
Yeah.
And also love that gift advice. So smart.
Thank you.
Wish I had
Just
implemented that.
a little tiny nugget.
I'm like on my notes app trying to figure out who got this, and then all the Amazon packages. Woo.
Oh my gosh. And then trying to keep it consistent kid to kid. That was the other thing. You guys, I promise you, you're going to forget all the curfew rules, all the, as your kids age, and you want to try to keep that consistent. So write it somewhere that you're not going to lose it. Like, your notes app might not be even good enough. You need to write it down somewhere where you're going to be able to find it in 2, 3, 4, 5 years, because our daughters are only 1 grade apart, and we're scratching our heads like, crap, what was the curfew? And sometimes we have to call our older daughter because she'll remember. And it's like, we want to make this fair, and I'm not saying you have to always have the same rules for every kid, because they all are different. And so some of them just are going to need different rules and guidelines, but be fair and consistent where you can,
Yeah, true. Good advice. Good advice, Mama. Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right. Let's talk about your podcast for a minute.
So fun.
So you talk about all things that no one is really talking about because it's, quote, too embarrassing. Like, what
Yes.
made you decide to do that? Why do you love encouraging women to share their embarrassing stories?
Yes. Okay. Well, there were a couple things. First of all, we just moved to rural Montana 4 years ago. And of course, I, anyway, usually gain some weight when I'm going through something stressful and time consuming and hard. So I gained a little bit of weight, and I went to Dillard's, and I went to try on this dress that would usually be not a problem. And I got stuck in it at Dillard's. So I had to get the sales lady in to help me. And I was like picturing giant shears or tearing of seams, or like the jaws of life. I don't know, trying to get me out of this dress. And I did get out. We didn't tear it, but the lady helped me. And I was so embarrassed.
So you're not wearing the dress. You're not wearing the dress today.
I don't have the dress on under these clothes. No, I don't. I sure don't.
Just making sure.
It is in my closet, however, because that's a totally different part of the story. But I came home without it. And then I was like, no, I'm going to buy that dress. And then I paid shipping for it like an idiot. But but you guys, it's too big now, and it's still not cute. It didn't get cuter when I lost weight. It's just a bad dress. But I thought it was cute. But anyway, Okay, so after I got over the humiliation, then I just thought it was hilarious, and I was so tickled by this story, and I was telling my daughter we were laughing so hard, and I came home and I had a blog because I was already chronicling my journey into getting Shelfie Shoppe up and running, but I wrote a lot of other stuff on that blog too, medicine, parenting, this kind of stuff. So I wrote an article about how I think we should lower the bar for each other because I got stuck in this dress and I was embarrassed, and I shouldn't have been embarrassed because that's just silly. And so many people came out of the woodwork saying, that's totally happened to me. And I was like, you guys, why are we not telling each other these stories? Number one, it's fun. I mean, once you're over the humiliation, it's kind of fun to be amused together and laugh at ourselves together. But the deeper thing is that we are so bonded by these stories. And I thought back to a time when I went to a Christmas party with my girlfriend, Karen, who is the friend collector and always has friends that don't know each other. And she brings us all together yearly at Christmas and does a gift exchange. So this year, when our number came up, we had to get up and tell an embarrassing story. I started the night feeling like I had 30 acquaintances, maybe a couple good friends in there. And I ended the night feeling like I had 30 friends. And I am still laughing at those stories. This was like 8 years ago. And they're just like little gifts, little nuggets that I bring up and laugh out loud about sometimes just spontaneously. And that's bringing me so much joy. But it also has brought me so much connection because whereas before that party, I would see, Nicole in the drop-off line and I would think she's got it so together. Her fashion's so cute. Her kids are younger. I can't really relate to her. Well, after this party, I was like, oh my gosh, there's Nicole. I love her so much, because I knew about the time when her son pulled her soccer shorts down in Home Depot and she didn't have any underwear on under there, I loved her.
And now we all know that too.
Yeah. Love you, Nicole. She's given me permission to share that. I won't give her last name, but yeah.
That is a great story though.
Gosh,
wow.
So fun. Yeah. So I thought we should tell these stories, but I feel like spoken word was a little better than written word. And I mean, I laugh so hard. I'm going through Kleenex left and right when I'm doing these interviews, and I have to cut out a whole bunch of ugly laughing from the audio or else people wouldn't be able to listen to it very easily. But it has been so much fun. And yeah, so now I feel like I have girlfriends all over the world that we've told each other these stories. And, so telling the stories, not only does it lower the bar for each other, make us seem relatable to each other and bond us together, but it also reminds us when we hear these stories, it reminds us of our stories. And it's just like this ripple effect of joy and relatability, like after that Christmas party at Karen's, then Christmas party season was so much more fun for me that year because I wasn't using names, but I was telling some of my favorite stories. And then at those parties, we would tell our stories. And it was just like this, it's just so much fun. So I love it. And I've done it since then at like a women's retreat icebreaker. And it's just joy. It's just joy.
Yeah. You have totally inspired me for a Christmas get together I have coming up with girlfriends. I'm going to pitch this to the table.
Oh my gosh,
sure.
It is so much fun.
It's gonna be fun.
It's a good ab workout. I mean, you walk out of there with rock solid abs because you laugh so hard, And then I promise, like the next few months, you'll still be laughing. Like I'll be driving down the road now, and I mean, I'm not hard to make laugh, but I'll start giggling. My kids are like, "What are you laughing at now, Mom?" And I'm like, "I'm just laughing at, Karen's story about this or that." And I mean, it's just, yeah, you got to do it. It's so much fun.
All right, I got to ask a follow-up question about your embarrassing story, though.
Okay.
It's in rural Montana. So have you bumped into the sales lady after the incident?
Well, after I found out that it happens all the time, I didn't feel so bad, but she had a shoulder injury. So she was like, she's pulling the dress off and I'm like deep knee bending with my arms above my head, like an obedient toddler. And she stops and I'm like, oh my gosh, I thought it was coming off. And then she stopped and she's like, I can't bring my shoulders any higher. So I'm like really dropping it down. And there's a lady in the dressing room next to me. So no, I haven't. But now that I know that it happens more frequently, I probably wouldn't be as embarrassed to see her. And then hopefully she got some amusement out of it too later. So if I saw her, I would probably be like,
maybe that was her story.
Oh, I can promise you that if I saw her today, I would be like, you probably don't remember me, but I'm going to remind you of this. I can tell you that it has just like I started a podcast after that. And she'd just be like, wow, this lady, wow.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
I'm shameless.
All right, Joanne. I have really enjoyed this chat. I feel like I could go on, but we have a time deadline on the Mama Work It podcast. So I want to move on to the lightning round now, where we are going to ask you some random questions just for fun, just so our listeners can get to know you even more personally than that story.
Excellent.
Awesome. You can believe
Let's
it.
see if we can do it.
Okay. All right. Here we go. Tell me if you could have any superpower, what would it be?
I want to fly. I'm very impatient. I'd love
Really?
to be able to fly point A to point B.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. What is your cocktail of choice?
Chardonnay. Used to be red wine, but I'm allergic to it now to the point where it makes me throw up at 3 a.m. It's really unfortunate. One glass.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Wow. What a medical condition to have.
It's a bummer. And I used it for interest sake. I used to be able to take an antihistamine and prevent that because I love red wine. I've been drinking red wine with my dad for decades. But then I started breaking through that. So I just don't. And I can only have one drink of anything. It's weird.
Yeah. Well, I'm kind of the same. I had 3 glasses of wine on Thanksgiving and it did not end well.
You were like, this was so not worth it. Yeah. I mean, if I
I
have a large pour, I have to pour some of it in my husband's drink. Because if it's there, I'll drink it. But I won't be glad I did that later. Which is probably a gift from God, honestly, if I'm being honest, because I really like the feeling of being buzzed and I really like how relaxed I get after a drink. And then it's very hard to not have a second drink if I don't have a reason to not have that second drink, right? So I have a good reason and I never have a second drink now. Not that there's anything wrong with a second drink, but when Joanne has a second drink, then a third and a fourth and fifth, or even, they each gets easier to justify, right?
Yeah. Yeah. What if you could only eat one food for the rest of your life? What would it be? Calories don't count.
Ice cream sundaes, peanut butter with it for protein.
What flavor ice cream?
Oh my gosh, flavor of ice cream. It's got to be Cherry Garcia.
Oh, nice
so
choice.
Good.
Yeah. You wouldn't get sick of Cherry Garcia every day?
No, Cherry Garcia is like, it's got your fruit, it's got your chocolate. It's just so delicious. And it's I'm telling you, like 4 food groups practically.
I like how you really gave that like a moment of thought. And then you're like, no, hell no, I wouldn't. No.
Yep.
Okay. What is something most people don't know about you?
Oh, I can wiggle my ears.
All right, let's see. Oh my gosh. It looks like it's glitching, but no, your ears are actually wiggling.
Yeah, there's this muscle called the posterior auricular that you're not supposed to have voluntary control over, but for some reason I do. I guess that's my superpower.
Wow.
Not very useful.
You can't fly, but you can wiggle your ears.
Maybe I could learn to flap my ears harder and harder and eventually fly with those.
What book are you reading right now?
Oh, I'm reading a book called Lessons in Chemistry. It's so good. I'm only partway through it. It's about this scientist. That doesn't make it sound very interesting, but it's so quirky. It's so good. It has romance. It has science. It has parenting. It's just, I love it, love it, love it. I can't think of the name of the author, but it's called Lessons in Chemistry.
It's funny how you said it, like Lessons in Chemistry. It's so good. and you're a former physician. And I was just like, chemistry. I hated that class in high school.
Yeah. The name of it sounds so bad but it's a chick lit book. I don't know why it's called. I mean, it's called Lessons in Chemistry because the gal's a scientist, but let me see if I can just sit. Yeah. Okay. The cover has a lady with a high mom bun and sunglasses on it. And it is written by Bonnie Garmus, Garmus. If you haven't read it, you have to.
So it's not like, it's not a cover with like, a chem lab.
It is not a chemistry textbook, I promise you.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. I could be down with that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Finally, what's your guilty pleasure TV show?
Project Runway.
Yes.
I don't really know if that's much of a guilty pleasure, but my daughter and I love to watch that together. We all 3 sew, but I just love it. It has everything. It has drama and fashion and stress and adorable people. And I
could
just love it.
See that for you. I have to tell you that in college, that was a show I loved. I watched all the time. And I decided I wanted to be a fashion designer after watching that show, several seasons of that show, and applied to FIT. And I wrote about this in my book, Biz Momagement. The whole story's in there. Had to make something to apply to the school, right? This was like post-graduating bachelor degree, but I wanted to go get a fashion career. And I hate to sew and I don't sew. So my mom said, I'll help you sew that skirt because I see how excited you are to go to this school. And she did. And it was the like ugliest skirt I've ever seen. And it's not because my mom sewed it poorly. She did a great job. It's because I designed a hideous skirt. So I said, I don't know if this is the right path for me. And I didn't go.
Oh, you're like, well, I'm good at other things.
Yes, I still can enjoy the show and not have to dive my whole career into fashion design.
Yeah. I just am impressed that you thought you wanted to do that after watching that show. It gives me heart palpitations. I mean, It's so stressful. I don't know how they do it, but I mean, I actually love to sew, but nobody's wearing my stuff on the runway. You know what I mean?
Like, right. And you're not under like a very strict time constraint to get it done.
Yeah.
All right, Joanne. Well, before we wrap up, please tell our listeners where they can find you, where they can access Shelfie Shoppe wear, all the good stuff, your podcast. Tell us everything.
Okay. Well, you can find Shelfie Shoppe at shelfieshoppe.com. That's ShelfiesHoppe.com. Not because I'm fancy, but because plain shop was taken when I went to register for my URL. And then you can find Fancy Free Podcast at fancyfreepodcast.com. And if you want my episode with Marissa, you can go to fancyfreepodcast.com/episode 148. And then I used to blog at Cozy Clothes Blog, but I now have that blog embedded in my Shelfie Shoppe. So if you go to Shelfie Shoppe and you look for blog, you can see awesome, like make ahead garlic mashed potatoes that I'm actually going to go make now because we're having people for dinner tonight. That recipe is so famous. And then bring the most popular dessert to a party recipe, and like medical articles and just all kinds of different articles that I've written. I think those are the places. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook, but I'm very spotty on those. So
you guys, she's a plethora of knowledge. Go follow her somewhere. Check out the podcast, check out the clothing line, check out her blog. I didn't even know about the blog. I'm about to go check that out. The mashed potatoes. Yeah, I'm down.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. They're so good. You make them in the morning and you put them in the crock pot and forget it. And they are the best.
Crock pot mashed. You have just blown my mind.
You just, so you don't have to like ruin your blowout on Thanksgiving right before you sit down to the table over some steamy potatoes. It's major. Yeah, I wrote a whole article about it because that's how much I love.
I mean, that sounds life-changing, article worthy. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, Joanne, thank you so much for being a guest. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's been so much fun, Marissa. Thank you so much for having me on.
You've been listening to the Mama Work It podcast. I hope you've enjoyed this episode and would love if you could take a quick minute to leave me a review on whichever platform you're listening from, and maybe even send a note to a fellow mama friend recommending it. Reviews and recs help this podcast grow and reach more like-minded, awesome moms. And if you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click that button so we can stay in touch, girl. By the way, if you haven't checked out the Mama Work It website, please do. There are lots of free resources and great articles there that can help you with the juggle of work life, mom life, wife life, fill in the blank life. So head on over. Thanks again for being part of the tribe. I'll see you soon, but in the meantime, keep on working it, mama.